Having read this amazing book called Reading Land, there's a chapter in here about perimeter walls of churches. I'm going to read you a little section from it. Here we are, churchyard walls it's called. It says, I explained in the introduction why churchyard walls qualify as nodal points of communication. In other words, places where people congregated and met together. Grass, roots or soil along the outside of the wall can hold Anglo-Saxon to Georgian coins and artefacts lost by people who used the wall as a backrest in ages past. A vicar's permission to search that sort of wall should prove profitable. So I have a church where I live, and I thought, right, I'm going to ask permission. There's grass verges all the way around the edge of it. I'm going to ask. As it turned out to be quite a useless permission, because the land has been, over the years, has been built up with topsoil, and anything decent is so deep I'm not hearing it. However, it did lead to another permission, because as I was detecting in this very public place, somebody stopped their car and said, hey, I own the fourth wall. And they said, would you be interested in coming and having a look? So of course I said, yes, that'd be lovely. I'd love to come. Hello again from my pigsty at my permission, which I call the secret encampment. This is the only place that I can film where the wind can't get in. It's really blowing a gale today across the moor and over here towards this hill, where in a very strategic hilltop position there is a church. This church was super important. It sort of was the main focal point of this whole area. So I thought I'll come in here to show you the best find we've made so far on this permission. I won't take the credit for it. It wasn't me that found it, it was my buddy. I brought it with me today because I'm going to take it to show the landowner. They're really keen to see it. So this is the coin that was found here in Edward I penny, dated from the 1200s. Tiny little coin actually, really small. It's about as small as one of my fingertips. I think this one has been clipped a little bit. It's got some sort of fairly geometric shaped edges, which I think means it's had a little bit of a clipping. These coins are made of pure silver, so if you were to take a little snip off the edge and no one noticed, then you could melt them down. It was sort of the earliest kind of fraud. Not sure if you can see the king on the other side, but he is there, but not great. In terms of what this kind of coin would have been worth then, a haymaker, which was the sort of lowliest position, would earn one of these a day, 1p. A reaper would earn 2. A cooper or barrel maker would earn 3p, a carpenter would earn 4p, and a mason would earn 5p. But if you were a knight, you would earn 48p. And there's the poverty gap in Edwardian Britain, or England. No, surely not. Oh, for God's sake. And now I'm basically finding myself in the same position that whoever lost this coin was in, searching desperately through the leaves for a very small coin. I'm going to call upon my modern day helper. There he is. Thank God for that. I haven't even taken it to the landowner yet. So you can see how hard it would be to find that if you dropped it. Tiny little thing, so well disguised. I'm glad I got you back. So after making my little film in the pigsty, I bumped into the landowner and I was able to show her that little coin, the little Edward I coin, and she took it because she wanted to keep it as part of the kind of history of her home, and she wants to make a sort of display with it. I came away from that meeting and thought it'd be really nice to find out more about that coin, and I know it's a completely impossible task, but I would just like to know what kind of person will have dropped that coin. And I think I might have found out a bit more about who that coin could have belonged to. I've gone off on this crazy mission, learning about the history of that church, because to me that's like the key to this, who this coin could have belonged to. Where it was found was no more than 20 paces from where the church is now. All I knew about that church is that I was told it was 1,000 years old. So I started doing some research about it, and I've discovered that the village where I'm detecting is mentioned in the Domesday Book, or at least a very nearby hamlet is mentioned, not more than half a mile away. That's really interesting because that mentions what kind of people were living there, what kind of agriculture was going on. It's obviously a very, very small place. Okay, so this coin I know was dated somewhere between 1272 and I think 1308. The church is not 1,000 years old, as I've been told. It's actually built in the 14th century. When that coin was in existence, there was no church. So I started really looking into when was the church built, how did it all come about? And it turns out that it was built by Benedictine monks who were housed in the local inn, and that was built in 1250. So suddenly we're getting a bit of a timeline now. We've got an inn built in 1250 to house Benedictine monks who were here to build a church that was completed in the 1300s. So somewhere between 1250 and the 1300s, this coin was lost. And so it makes sense to me that that coin should probably be a coin that belonged to a labourer working on the build of the church. Someone who was earning their money in silver pennies, stonemasons and carpenters. Funny, because yesterday I was talking to you from a pigsty telling you that I'd discovered how much masons and carpenters were paid. So that little Edward penny was someone's pay. I don't know if anyone's read the book Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. It's all about the construction of the cathedrals and churches at this very time. I never used to be interested in churches. I used to get dragged around them as a child. I think we should go and have a look and see the handiwork of the person that possibly lost their penny that we found this year. It's very simple. It would have originally been cross-shaped. That's one of the transepts of the cross. This middle section was the original part of the church. There's still an old window. The words on the window say, "He arose and said unto the sea, Peace, be still." That's a very fitting message, given we're about 2 miles from the sea. And the image shows a boat on the waves and worried expressions. To be in here. These are medieval panels on the pulpit. Anno Dom. Here lieth the body of, I can't see the name, but the date is 1649. It's amazing to think of people building this 800 years ago. Every single stone measured and cut by hand. Someone dreamed up the shape. I like that it's so simple in here. I can hear the wind outside blowing off the sea. It must have been a cold place to work in the winter. Light a candle for the people who built the church. Well, that was actually really a lovely visit. And I know we can't tell who that coin belonged to, but it's really quite interesting when you narrow down the time period of that coin. There was really only one thing happening in this village at that time. There wasn't really even any families living here as far as I can tell, certainly from the Domesday Book. So it was all about the church being built. So I think it is highly likely that the person that dropped that coin was in some way connected to the building of that church. Whether they were a labourer, a mason, a carpenter, or maybe they were bringing food in or drink in, I don't know. But all I do know is it was dropped at the time when the church was being built, and it was wonderful to go and visit the church and see some of the original parts of it that still feel so authentic and simple, just whitewashed stone walls, the original windows, the original messaging, just stunning, and especially at Christmas, all decked out with natural foliage and candlelight. It was just really a special way to get to know, again, you know, a place that I'm detecting, because I think for me that's the real joy in this hobby, is I'm getting to know places and getting to know things about the people that lived here. It's helping me connect to where I live. So from me and my studio, a little story about a coin.